Hello everyone, my name is Avkash and today I'm going to show you that how you can make yourself more productive by combining your work routine or your development routine with Google Colab. Not only that, if you take your Google Colab sessions and combine it with your Google Drive and your public and private GitHub repos, that's a lethal combination for any developer or any machine learning engineer or any data scientist to get lot more external resources available free at their disposal. And who doesn't like free? However, if you have Google account, means you already have the Google Colab free resources available for you to use. I cannot emphasize for you to start using Google Colab if you are not using. And in this tutorial, I'm going to give you 4 big reasons that why you should start using Google Colab if you are not using. If you already a Google Colab user, I will try my best to give you some other details that will make your existing working session with Google Colab even more useful. So this tutorial is focused to make yourself more productive by creating a technology combination of Google Drive, Google Colab, and GitHub. So let's get ourselves started. So if you are not using Google Colab so far, the very first thing you need to do is that you have to get yourself ready with Google Colab connected with your Google account, because almost everybody, every developer mostly in this world are having the Google Gmail account. And reason for having a Google account is that you get to choose a lot more resources free of the cost at Google Cloud first. Second, you might say that there is no free or there is no free lunch. I totally agree with you, because Google does track everything you really do. So that's the price you are going to pay if you are going to use the variety of free resources available from the Google. So it's your choice. If you do not want to have Google account, then this tutorial may not be applicable to you. However, if you already have the Google account, access to Google resources, then this tutorial is going to be very beneficial to you. So very first thing, you have to have Google account. I already have Google account, and that is where I'm already accessing my Google Drive. So I connected with my Gmail account and I'm accessing my Google Drive right now. Next, I went to Google search and I made a search Google Colab, and this is the page where I got it. If you would want to learn more about Google Colab in detail, I would suggest you to please read all that content at your own time, and you are going to learn a lot. Here, Google Colab let you run the Jupyter Notebook in their environment. Every time you run a Jupyter Notebook, you get to play with one available environment, and the RAM will be depending on when you connect. It will be less or large depending on what your luck is, honestly, because there is no guaranteed resources available. If you will not use your resource, you will be disconnected, so you need to reconnect again. But that's the free. If you would want to go to paid version of Google Colab, it's called the Google Colab Pro. If you pay $9.99, you are going to get faster GPU, more memory, longer runtime. It means you will not be disconnected frequently. If you pay even more, then you are going to get even more memory and a lot more resources. So honestly, I'm using almost 2 years now, and I enjoy, and I have massive amount of work being done through Google Colab, and I never had a need to still access the Google Pro for my personal work. So I would suggest you that you can start with the Google Colab, and unless you hit a problem, you can look for Pro or Pro Plus. Okay. Say what advantage we have if we have even Google Colab, just basic plan. First thing, all of your Jupyter notebooks are sitting at your Google Drive. and you can connect them. So as you see, as of now, I do not have Google Colab connected with my Google Drive. It's very easy. What you need to do when you access this Google Colab, you see colab.research.google.com, immediately it gives me access that, okay, do I want to connect with my Google Drive? And here you see that this is the Google Drive access. It can also connect with GitHub. I'm coming into over there, or you can upload a content directly to Google Colab. So first thing what you could do is that when you come to Google Research, colab.research.google.com, just create a new notebook. So if you create a new notebook at this point, so you have created a new Google Colab notebook. Technically, it is actually created at your Drive right now. So the backend for Google Colab is your Drive. So if we come back here, as you see that Google Colab notebooks folder is already created in my Drive by as soon as I have created my very first Jupyter notebook at Google Colab. Now, if I try to rename this and I call it my first notebook, and at this point, if you reload here, Google Colab, you will see that this is the very first one, which is started as a untitled 0, but we have renamed it. So you could save it. So use the very last option here is save. So if you are going to save it, it actually update this one. And if you just go Drive and Google, now you see the name is changed. So this is how you are going to create a notebook, but this is not a good way to connect. Now we can close this. We do not need that notebook, is still staying there. So the best way is that when your Google Colab notebook folder is created, you create your folder. So I create, for example, this folder, I call it a stash, means all the junk kind of work will be there. I can also create another folder where, for example, I say my work, okay, and I can also create a new folder called the dev. So these are the three folders I'm using. So if I want to take this notebook and I want to move in stash, I have moved in stash. So now I have these three folders available in my Google Colab. Now if I want to create a new notebook in any folder, so for example I came to dev and I right click here and I will select at this point that create a new Google Colab. So this is the best way, because now the file will be created directly into the dev folder. So if this here, and I will name it dev notebook, I save it, file, save, and this notebook is going to be stored in this dev notebook. So Colab available here. So slowly more work you are going to do, you can create these different folders and all of your work is going to be stored here. So as soon as you get new machine, you can see here that its status is connected, and you see there is a button called connect to a local runtime. That is also a really great thing about Google Colab. Left side, you see there are a couple of things. So first we will look into the file system. So if you click here, you could see that this is your VM. So it's a Linux machine. If you would want to access this VM through terminal, you can actually access it, but here is the catch. You have to have the Colab Pro to access the terminal. So because I do not have Pro version here, you will not be able to access it, but technically you can. Next, you see here that there is a search, so related with your Jupyter, so you can search, and here you can get a bunch of code snippet already pre-built into. So for example, if you would want to add this thing in this cell, if you are in cell, you can select this option, and here is the code, and you can say I would want to insert it, and code will be inserted. So whole code is already there. You run it, and here is your. So very quickly they already have pre-built recipes available, and very soon you can have your own recipes also connected over there. Is that when you have this Google Colab available for you, you can upload and download the content here directly. there are a couple of ways you could do. So when you are working, this content folder is your folder. So if you would want to upload anything in this folder, either you can choose this option, which will let you upload to session storage. In this option, you click here and picture is uploaded, because when you have selected, the picture is uploaded here, but the best way to move this to content folder. So it is here. If you would want to upload directly here, you right click at folder name and select upload option, and you could upload zip file. If you are going to use the zip file here, then you need to use this command line tool to unzip it here, because there is no command or there is no right click to unzip, or there is no terminal access if you are not paid version. So upload, same thing. If you would want to download, you select a file, right click here and download, and it will be downloaded to your local file system. So upload and download is really very easy. If you would want to upload a file from the shell, then you could use the Google Files option, and that will help you to upload also a file, and same as download also. And from my understanding, if you are working, the best way is to use the content folder for yours, because I always use this particular. If you would want to check the runtime system running in this, you can actually say pip list, and all the packages installed in this machine is available, and the Python version 3713, and these are all the packages available. So by default, you will see that a great amount of packages already available for you to just get yourself started, and machine already has the TensorFlow and Keras updated everything. So the preparedness is really very rarely required, because machine learning ready VM is available for you. It's like a best thing in this world. You don't need to use your local machine unless you are doing something serious where you have to have the guaranteed runtime and high availability. So for experimentation, that's the best place here. Like for example, this is what we have loaded. So this is the data frames are already available here. So you can take a look, search, you already know what it is, and here is the table of content. So if you build the sections in this Jupyter Notebook, they will be available here. So for example, if I add this text here and I call it first section, and so this became my first section is added. If after here I can add another section here, after here one more text, now we'll call it second section. And so remember, this is the text cell, this is the code cell. Now just second section is there. So first and second section, so depending on your need, you can actually set them. Once you start working Jupyter Notebook at Google Colab, you pretty much learn within half an hour to 1 hour majority of the functionality. So you might ask the difference between Google Colab and Jupyter Notebook. The easiest answer is the Google Colab is built top of open source Jupyter Notebook framework. So almost everything what you have seen in Jupyter Notebook is available for you, plus lots of things here. So if you would want to see your machine detail, you can see that this is the machine. So RAM and disk available. So you get about 100 gig disk whenever this VM is available for you, and about a gig RAM. It will be sometime over a gig, sometime you might get a half gig RAM. It's depending on whenever you connect and whatever the workload is at the Google Cloud, where these Colabs are available for as a shared resources. If you would want to break this runtime, you go ahead and you say restart your runtime. Runtime will be restarted. If you would want to clean all that output, you go to edit and say clear all output, and all that output will be clean. And then as you see that we have already restarted the runtime. So if we come and look into the data set, you will not be finding any data sets because we have removed the runtime. Here is your code and text, and you can keep working code and text as you pretty much do in Jupyter Notebook. I would say one of the most important function I would be showing you next is the connectivity with your Google Drive. So if you have your source files, your image files, if you are trying to do the convolutional neural net based experimentation, so you cannot use this machine for your data. You can use it, but the problem is that as soon as you will be disconnected, your all data will be gone. Or if you would want to do experimentation later and you do not have time to keep working in your session, then your data will be gone. So the best option is that for your large amount of data which you cannot move back and forth, it's better to add that everything on Google Drive and connect that drive directly a folder and access here. So we will connect and then we will access the folder. So first, as you see that we have a my drive, I can create a folder called my data. So my data folder is created here, and in the my data folder I can upload a CSV file from my local machine. So I do have a Spotify artist URIs CSV at my data folder in my Google Drive. So if I want to access my drive here, is very easy method. When you are here in this, you see there are options available in your view when you select the file view, and here is your mount drive option. So mount drive option, you select it, it means from this session you are going to get your Google Drive connected. Just option is really very simple, and it's say connect to my Google Drive, and it's going to select your current running session, and now you have access to Google Drive. And if you would want to say where it is available, and after your Google Drive is mounted, this icon will show that your drive is mounted. So if you want to unmount it, just click here. So at this point, this is the drive, and here is the my drive, and here is the my data, and here is the CSV file. So if we would want to access it, we can CSV equals to is going to be content ls-lah. So this is looking into the content folder. Then start looking into content. Then you will say drive. Then you will say my drive and my data. And then here is your CSV. So if you would want to set this as a path, so here this way you could access your CSV file. So if you would want to create this path, you can combine this, and now you will be able to access it. So here is your final CSV, and if you would want to access it, you can actually say here import pandas as pd and pd.csv, and you can there you go. So there are a couple of ways you could access it, and I have shown you that how you could make sure that you have access to your file system. So after you no longer needed your drive, you could remove the connectivity. Your connectivity is removed. And so after your connectivity is removed, the session is also removed. It means the data which you have pulled will no longer be accessible for you. So hopefully it clarifies you that how you could use your Google Drive with the Google Colab, which is a very important feature. Next, I will show you that how you could connect your GitHub with Google Colab. So here, as you see, right side, there is an option to select the GitHub. And in order to authorize with your GitHub account, you really need to provide your GitHub credential here. And depending on your accessibility. So for example, if I would want to connect my ProdRamp GitHub account here, as you see that just need to provide the ProdRamp credential. My GitHub account is available and I could save it. So now the Google Colab is connected with my GitHub account. So if I was working on a project, for example, this is the project I was working, and I want to save this data to one of my public repo. Save a copy in GitHub. That's option really needed. So the connectivity with GitHub was simple, because the best way is that you open a tab where you have a GitHub access, and then you select this GitHub, and it will immediately let you connect your current GitHub session. Then whichever notebook you would want to save at GitHub, select save a copy in GitHub, and very quickly you will see that all the different GitHub which are public project are accessible. If you would want to provide private repo access, that is also available. And let me cancel it, and I will show you that when you are in GitHub, what you could do is that you could check this option, access private repo and organizations. So if you say access private repo, and you will be able to have access to even private repos. I'm not showing right now, but you get an idea to connect with your private repos. Now, if you would want to save any of your Jupyter notebook from Colab to your GitHub, simple option is save a copy in GitHub, and select one of your choice. I will select this public code, and here you can provide the folder name. So for example, if my GitHub public code is this, and I want to save this whole thing on a single particular file, I could name stash here, and I could say stash2, and that will be saved in stash and stash2 folder. If folders are not there, folders will be created. And once I say OK, and there you go. So public code, stash folder is created and stash2 is created, and here is the Google Notebook. Now Colab Notebook is available, and if I would want to work on it, I can close this notebook. Session is already destroyed, no longer session accessible there. Now I can come back here, Google, I can open in Colab, and now this is at this GitHub location. If I would want to save it, now you say that you do not have permission to save this notebook. To keep your changes, make a copy of the notebook, because the connectivity from GitHub to backside is not created. So if you would want to do it, that's a separate way to do it. So if I want to save that back to Google Drive, I can choose wherever I would want to save it. So you get an idea from Google Colab how you could save everything to public GitHub repo. If you have a private, it's a little different. So, and I will keep the private part not in this tutorial. So we have learned two important things. First, connectivity with Google Drive for the data part of your Google Colab, and then we also connected the GitHub, all the private or the public repos. So we could export any of our Jupyter notebook from Google Colab to our GitHub account. There is another feature which I will just glance, I will explain here, but I will not show how to do it. You could either find resources to do it, or I will be creating a separate tutorial to perform that. I don't want to make that advanced feature in this general tutorial. And that is connectivity to your local runtime. So if you select here, there is an option that you can create this Jupyter notebook at the Google Drive, but the runtime you can shift from Google Colab to your local machine. Why you do it? There could be several options for that, because maybe my local runtime is very powerful. I have a machine running GPU, everything, physical GPU system with server kind of infrastructure, but my code, everything sitting at Google Colab. So I would want to try that, and for that you can use this instruction set, are already publicly available, how you could connect Google Colab to your local runtime. And once you complete that configuration, you could use this option to connect from Google Colab to your runtime when the permissions, everything set, depending on how deep you are in within your corporate network. If you are doing in corporate, but if you are at home, it's fairly easy to do it. So this feature is also available, but again, I'm not showing in this tutorial. So at this point, I would say that I have given you several reasons so that you can start using the Google Colab. And two best options are that connectivity with Google Drive, which always use for data, and second, the connectivity with GitHub. And most of my YouTube tutorial related with deep learning, I run mostly of them at Google Colab. And after I complete my tutorial, I export that Jupyter notebook from Google Colab from my drive to public GitHub, because I do not want to share everything from my Google Drive. So it's way easier for me to share everything through my GitHub public repo. So these are the two primary reasons I would like to suggest you to use the combination of Google Colab with Google Drive and GitHub. And if you are keep working for several months, slowly you are going to have a great resources publicly available, so you could share whomever you would want to, or people will love to see what you are doing. And that could become your portfolio as well. So for that reasons, I will once again emphasize that how important it is for you to combine your daily engineering work routine, combining with Google Drive, Google Colab, and the GitHub. So let's recap what we have covered in this tutorial. First thing, we learned that you can start using Google Colab as soon as you have a Google account available for you. If you have Google account, the Google Colab is freely available for you to get started as soon as you would want to create your very first Google Colab notebook. Second, we also learned that there is no big difference between Jupyter Notebook and Google Colab notebooks. So if you have previous experience with Google Jupyter Notebook, Colab is very easier for you to get started. Third, all your data requirement, you can use the Google Drive and you can connect with your Google Colab session. So your data will always going to be there at the Google Drive, and you can keep running your experimentation in Google Colab. Very important feature, because the Google Colab sessions are intermittent. Sometimes you may not get a good connectivity. Sometimes you might get less resources. So it's not good to keep uploading and downloading data at the virtual machine given for your Google Colab runtime. So Google Drive, which gives you the consistent storage resource. So it's better to connect your Google Drive with existing or currently running Google Colab session. The last reason we would want to use the Google Colab is because of GitHub connectivity. You can connect your private and public repos through your Google Colab sessions. So first you need to set up the session with your Google Colab and your GitHub, and you can keep utilizing that session connectivity for the every Google Colab notebook you create. So you just need to do it once. If you do not want to set up your private GitHub with Google Colab, that's also you can only keep the public one. So these are the few very important reasons I suggested you to use Google Colab. If you are not using, if you are using, you can utilize Google Colab even more. So that's all I have for you in this tutorial, and I hope you have found something very important and useful for you to start following. I appreciate your time, and I'm going to look forward to see you in my next video. Until then, thank you so much for your time.